So let's go ahead and talk about the Nintendo 2DS system here. I've been meaning to make this video for some time, but I finally got down to it, and I want to talk a little bit about it more in depth. I absolutely love the 2DS. I love how it feels, and it's very comfortable to hold, despite what a lot of people say. I think until you actually hold it in your hands, you're going to get a great feel for it. Now, this actually came out 2 years after the original 3DS came out, so it wasn't that much longer till we had our hands on the 2DS. You know, the 3DS XL came out and it was just larger screens, but everything else was still the same as the original 3DS. Then enter the 2DS, which was supposed to be their quote-unquote budget-friendly version, which was, I think, like $60 or $70 cheaper than the 3DS. But what they did is they went ahead and removed the 3D functionality from this device. Now, there's a few reasons why they did that. One, budget, cost, but also they felt that kids, I guess there was a study where young kids being exposed to like 3D can really affect their eyesight, especially if their eyes have not fully developed properly yet. So they went ahead and removed that from them, and I mean, I don't blame them for it. And there's actually a lot of people that never really use the 3D function. I personally never really use the 3D function. Now I have the Nintendo 3DS XL here, the new one, or quote-unquote new, which was their name for it. But one of the big problems was that the hinges for the DS systems and the 3DS systems would get broken. I mean, kids are kids and things are going to happen, so they decided to release one that did not have a hinge and was just a little bit more friendly and a little bit more sturdier. I believe they do tests on this stuff where, you know, they drop it 5 times on the ground to make sure that it, you know, is going to be durable. But with the screens being exposed, that causes another issue. So you could go on eBay and you're going to find, you know, 2DS systems with broken screens, because that's just how it is. You know, you trade one thing for another. But overall, I love the button placement. I love that they're right in the middle of the screen rather than on the bottom as they are on all the other DS systems. But everything's here. Like I said, the only thing missing is 3D functionality, and, you know, the buttons on the bottom for the 3DSs, it's fine since you're, you know, the form factor is different, but they wanted to place them a little bit higher, more in the middle. But overall, everything's very much the same. You still have your stylus, which is in a good placement. You have your memory card slot. And the one thing that really did bug me is that they still included the 3D cameras, which makes no sense because you can't really see the images in 3D on this handheld, so that's kind of a little silly. You got your game cartridge slot, your IR sensor, and your charger, which thank you, Nintendo, for making all the charging ports the same after years of the DS systems having completely different chargers. So I really appreciate that they finally did that. It just, you know, it meant a lot. Even though a lot of these systems did not come with chargers included, you had to buy it separately. Now, in order to put the system to sleep, back in the day, you would just close the lid on the DSs and you'd put them to sleep. But since there's no hinge or anything to close, they included this slider that then lets you go ahead and put the system to sleep. So anytime you were, you know, going to come back to a game, you just push that little slider to the right and your system would go to sleep. So that was kind of their way of making up for not having the hinge anymore. Other than that, all of the apps are still here. You're going to have your music app, you're going to have your you know, face raiders, all that stuff is still going to be on there. Again, the 3D cameras are still on here for some reason, which is silly. You have the ability to be able to play DS games and 3DS games. And like I said, I love the feel of the system. It reminds me a lot of how the Game Boy systems were. Just something about holding the system like that just reminds me of the Game Boy system. So I think maybe that's one of the reasons why I really like the button placement and how the handheld feels in your hands overall. I do have to say that if you go and buy one of these systems, keep in mind that you cannot play new Nintendo 3DS games like Xenoblade or Minecraft and such, because this came out before the new Nintendo 3DS was around. So those games will not work. So keep that in mind when you're looking at getting one of these systems, because you won't be able to play something like Xenoblade Chronicles on it. It's just going to give you a message that it's just not compatible. And then here's some footage of me just playing, you know, Mario Land, which is a fantastic game. But this game does really benefit from the 3D function, just because a lot of the way the levels are designed, they're meant to work with 3D. So that's kind of a bummer that you're going to miss out on when you play this game on 2DS. But Again, it's fine. You know, it's still enjoyable. You can still play all these great games on it. I just don't get the hate for the 2DS. It's a different system. It was meant for kids. Nowadays, you're going to have trouble actually finding one at a decent price because, you know, Nintendo ended up selling these for like $80, which is a steal nowadays. But if you're looking at a 2DS, I definitely recommend checking them out. They're still great. I have the white one here. I have a blue one somewhere. I just don't know where it's at. But the 2DS is still a great handheld, guys. Just, you know, cut it some slack. It's a good handheld. I promise. It'll feel great when you're playing with it.